All right, I'm here. Boy, oh boy. I planned on being here at 1 o'clock, but then we have a snowstorm right now. So, however long you think you're going to be driving on the road in a snowstorm, it doesn't necessarily make it that way. So, anyhow, here we are. Taking things out of my pockets. Okay. I've got some notes here I've put together. And I thought I'd talk about something kind of fun and interesting today. So, I think this is, yeah, okay. Just checking my connection was up. All right. So the question today is, what is art? And, the objective difference between good art, bad art. We're just going to move this a little bit. There we go. Okay. So the objective differences between good art and bad art, and which is more legitimate, I guess would be the word we're looking for. And a lot of those issues therein, right? So, art. Question mark. Move that over a little bit. There we are. Okay. Art. There we are. So there's a big magic question. I'm turning things on as I go here. I apologize. But like I said, snowstorm right now. Okay. So that's what I kind of wanted to chat about today. Now, I've been working on a whole bunch of different pieces all week. And I'll show you some of the things that I've been doing. Oh, yeah. I got that set up. So, this week has been an interesting week for, the last week or so has been an interesting week for producing pages, because we've been sort of having some fun on different genre, like different, not only different genres of story, but different approaches to medium. And so with that, I've been trying a whole bunch of different things. And that sort of plays into the subject of art, really. The what's what of it. Because, it's all about, what works for you, what's aesthetically pleasing for you. So this week's varied pages sort of plays into that. But just need to grab a drink. Poor Corbin looks bewildered. I came in rather dramatically today. Okay, so just want to check my sound levels. And we'll get crack-a-lackin'. There we go. All right, good stuff. Okay. All right, we're all set here. Just grabbing a bottle of water. Big old bottle of water. Here we go. Okay, so I've been drinking a lot of water lately, and which is a good thing. Yeah. I'm getting used to slightly different camera setup today, so. Okay, there we go. So this is a page, the current page that I'm trying to finish off that was for yesterday. A little bit behind today. And this is a yellow pencil on a blue cardstock. So this is kind of a different thing. Do you want to come over here? Okay, get your chair. There we are. All right. You all set, pal? There you are. So yeah, so I still got to finish this off, but this is what I'd started the other day. The other thing that I have in process right now is a mixed media application, which is being largely drawn with mixed, some paint pens and things like that, and finding all kinds of interesting details. You okay? Goes into it. So what this is a jelly plated surface, and so what a jelly plated surface is it's a transfer. It's a transfer method where you put together a high contrast image, and you set it aside like on a magazine or a photocopy, and you do a layer of acrylic paint on a gelatin plate or a gelatin sheet, however it's referred to. So you lay a thin coat of the paint on the sheet, and then you lay the high contrast image on top of that, and let it set. And then when you take the paper away, whether it's a photocopy or a magazine sheet or whatever it is, it should transfer that high contrast image onto there. I'm not very good at that. So because I'm not very good at that, I don't get very successful images. But what I do get is some interesting bits of information on the paper. And so there'll be some neat little, lines as far as it goes for the definable image that it's meant to represent. No can do. But what I find is opportunities like this where I can put together these scenes, like in this case, this forest scene. And the suggestion for this page is a bear and a Sasquatch meet in the woods and have a conversation. So here's our bear. And the next one that I'm putting in is this little scenario of the side of a little river or something. And so I'm going to draw here on the side. Just move this over. I'm going to draw here and here a Sasquatch crouched down by the log, and that's here. And then I'm going to have the Sasquatch standing up and looking back towards, the viewer or the opening in the panel. And excuse me, do you mind? This is private. And the reason I'm putting these two images here, as opposed to drawing them over top of the scene, is so that I can replicate the scene twice without having to reproduce it twice. I don't have to make all the time and effort to illustrate the exact same scene, two times. This way I can simply place it down twice, and when I scan the two characters that will be done, I just lay them over top. So it two scenes for not as much effort. Well, there's the effort in drawing the characters and so forth, but it's interesting. It's interesting to try to find different methodologies to put into place in order to simplify one's working process. The other page that I'm doing is yellow pencil. That's what this is, on a blue heavyset cardstock. So it's a very different working method, but between the two of them, we're doing two different kinds of one-page stories, two different kinds of approaches to the same. But that's what this week has been a number of different examples of that. So this is pencil drawn and then digitally colored and lettered. This is marker, magic marker. This one is mixed media. Again, this is all kinds of tissue papers and ballpoint pen, pencil. This is white pencil on a red cardstock. This is, I think this is entirely digitally done, as is this one. These are both digital pages. And this is a ballpoint pen. And this is a blue pencil. So it's been one of those weeks where, you try all kinds of different things. in order to, have each thing represent itself in its own way. I know I didn't show the entirety of the image. I mean, you can find those in previous YouTube videos or on Instagram or Facebook or whatnot. Hey, how you doing? Chris says, hello, we're coming in. Hi, everybody. I'll give you a minute, and then we'll get cracking. Talk about art. I mean, based on what I've been showing for the last minute, it's there's all kinds of different ways to use different tools to make different images. But yeah, art is a really interesting thing. Okay, well, I think I'll get started here. Let me get this stuff out of the road. So I wrote a big question on the paper. There's art. So there's an interesting way of looking at things. I've talked before with everybody, and art is an entirely subjective thing. Oh, Hector says hello. Art is an entirely subjective thing. There is a term that we had a challenging time learning the meaning of when I was younger, and it's called aesthetics. Aesthetics. And what aesthetics means is, basically, because it's one of those challenging things to define, my aesthetics are not going to be the same as your aesthetics, are not going to be the same as the person beside yours and their aesthetics. Hello, Samuel. Hello, Adrienne. So the things that I find personally pleasing are not necessarily the things that the person beside me finds personally pleasing in a visual way, or, what's your aesthetic appreciation of literature? It would be in a literary way, right? And so the challenge of art is, where is the validity line? Where is it the most valid to look at art as? Is it the things that are worth the most money? Is it the things that the most people like? Is it the things that are the most readily prepared and consumable? They're in all of the magazines, or is it something like what's called, we've got graffiti on the streets, and then we've got very simplistic, folksy art, which is where you've got people that paint entirely or draw entirely on their own and never share that with others. It's something that, they utilize what they have. So if they've managed to get some paint and all they have in the house to paint on is a muffin tin, they'll flip over the muffin tin and paint on that. Or they'll paint on the wall in their apartment or home, and more than likely, most people won't see it. All of these different things have their own validity in art. It's a hard thing to say what's more legitimate than the next. Hi, Linda. Hi, Tim. Welcome aboard. So when we're looking at, with art, what is valid, and part of my terrible writing, right? And then the other part is, and I'm going to write that word down, aesthetics. What is aesthetically pleasing? So when somebody looks at abstract art and they have a connection to abstract art, that's their aesthetic appreciation. That's their personal thing that they like. Another person looks at a painting and wants it to be highly representative of the actual objects that are being painted, so that it looks very real, maybe, very much like a photograph or something. That's their aesthetic appreciation. Is one more valid than the other? No. If we consider art on the basis of economics, is this classical painting that, the art world has decided is worth $3.2 million. Is that more valid than a similar exploration that someone's making today at home, in their own studio at home, or just painting in their backyard or whatever it might be? That, I think that they're equally valid. And because we live in a time where everything is a commodity, everything has some sort of expectation of value. And when you look at all of these fancy paintings that are selling for all of this money, I think the unfortunate reality that people aren't understanding is that this takes it away from the aspect of it being art, and it turns it into the aspect of it being something of value. It doesn't make it any more important than the next thing. There's all kinds of importance assigned to something, but again, it's based on money, and it's based on how the transference of money can help one person to the next person. So I'm going to try to keep up with saying hi to everybody, and I'm sorry if I'm missing folks. Hello, Juan. Hello, Estefania. Hello, Elvira. Hello, Regis. I think I'm keeping up. So when we look at what it is that we ourselves like, it's based on our own experiences. It's based on the art that we've been exposed to in our growing up, in the journey of our lifetimes. It's based on our cultural systems that are around us and our cultural aesthetics. It's based on our individual perspective, basically, whether, whatever we define ourselves as a person or whatever any of that business is. All of those factors contribute to what you find pleasing and what you find enjoyable. And some people like, big epic earthworks where somebody's gone with a tractor and sculpted the landscape and said, take a look at what I've done. And somebody goes, that's the coolest kind of art because it changes the environment. And another person makes art that has a time period before it self-destructs. Either the parts that they use, like they weave together some sticks into some object, and that art is only going to last as long as the sticks last before they dry out and crumble or whatever else. So permanence and impermanence still doesn't change the validity of art, because it's still about how people feel about it independently. When we get into groupthink, and the group takes an assessment of art and puts some importance to it. Now, like Liberty Leading the People is a really famous painting. That painting symbolizes a lot of meaning for the French people from whom it was in reference to when it was painted. For many American people, it's just to use those two as an example, and many more people. But it's the idea of standing up against oppression and the symbol of the people rising up together and picking up bricks from the street if they have to in order to fight the oncoming forces. And so that symbol that painting represents means a great deal of people. Other people look at Andy Warhol's soup can prints, and they assign value to that based on, how that looks to them and what it means for the change of art from a more classical representation to this avant-garde new processes. So there's all kinds of different ways that we can look at things. If that makes sense for folks, I hope it does. So there's, when you try to understand, now there's an example I was given about banana with a duct tape. It's a valid work as much as anything as anybody else sold in the millions of dollars. Sure. There's the impermanence of a record album. The Velvet Underground was the house band for Andy Warhol's parties, and I know I'm setting Andy Warhol a bit, but bear with me. They were called the Velvet Underground. It was Lou Reed and Sterling Morrison and Maureen Tucker and John Cale, really avant-garde musicians, and first female drummer in rock and roll. So they would play the music for the parties there. So Andy Warhol decorated their first record album that was released, and so what it is, it's a banana. It's just a banana on the record album. But what he did is that he printed a vinyl. So it's just the interior of the banana on the actual album, but he printed a vinyl exterior of the banana and laid it over top. And so when you bought this record, the piece of it as art is based on whether that vinyl banana is on there, if it peels off or it's removed completely. It changes the state of it. So it's somebody trying something artistic within the field of record covers, which is something that, might be beyond the norm for how people would think of that approach to packaging, to marketing of something. So, it's very interesting when you look at art from what you find appealing and interesting. And the more that you take into something, the more that you experience something, it changes your perspective overall. And so the more art that you look at, the more art that you yourself try to create, the more art that you converse with other people about, it changes your perspective on art and expands it. It very rarely will it ever diminish it. You can have 4 or 5 people in the same room talking about Frida Kahlo, and there's going to be different perspectives on that are going to enrich each of them, and the appreciation of this artist. And it's important that, especially in an age where we are now developing technology that allows us to interfere with the process of individuals creating art and finding the self-expression for themselves in the act of doing so. And now we're mechanizing the process by creating artificial intelligence. Somebody said something. Does the value of art lie in the technique and complexity, or in the idea and intention of the artist? That's dependent on you, right? So the value of art is, like I said at the beginning, is entirely subjective. If you look at it from an economic standpoint, it has one meaning. If you look at it from a symbolic standpoint, it has another meaning. If you look at it from the complexity of process, another meaning. And each of those meanings have their own value. It's just your worldview, really, as an individual. Well, Juan asks, when did you start to be interested in art? As far as my mother is concerned, while I was in the crib, while I was a baby. I started immediately messing up the walls around my crib. I would, if I ever got a hold of a crayon, I would somehow secret the crayon away someplace in my crib and scribble on it. Around a year old, she would say I would make a mess of the wallpaper. So I think I've always appreciated the act of self-expression. And as we grow up and as we take in more information around us, it can't help but only grow our appreciation of something and our understanding of something. It's the same as food. It's the same as music. It's the same as architecture. It's the same as appreciating a lovely walk outside. Do you prefer to walk in an urban environment, in a rural environment, in a park setting? And what brought you to that point? The more that we do things, the more that we engage in things, the more that we have an understanding of those. But generally, we have to have some kind of appreciation of that. I'm not very good at welding. I've tried to learn welding. I really think welding is kind of cool, and you can make some really interesting things. And I love it from an engineering standpoint of the potential to fabricate new ways of making things. But I'm not very good at the actual act of welding. So we can have an appreciation and a love of something without ourselves being able to do those things, right? When it comes to creative expression, I'm very learned in a number of different approaches and mark making tools, from painting and illustration, pens, markers, paint, you name it. I've probably drawn a page of it, or a one-page story page with it in the last year, and including digital and making that transition to digital elements. So it's about, there's two different parts of an appreciation of art, or an interest in art, and that's one, the enjoyment of it, and two, the act of engaging in it. So, okay, thank you, Samuel. So Samuel's question is, what's my opinion with AI and art? AI art is Some might be upset about this. Inevitable. And what I mean by that word is that and I'll write down AI before we forget that point. AI art is one of those things that it was going to be the process of creating an artificial intelligence based on, algorithms that are computed into programs and computer systems and applications that was always going to find a way that people that don't necessarily have a facility to make art can use these simple systemic approaches to have some kind of creativity through those. It was always going to happen. As soon as we started developing computer programs that made it possible for us to use those to create art, you were going to have programs that were going to be made that could do so autonomously. And I know I'm hitting you with some terms and some words. Autonomously means, it's just done on its own. So with AI art, the only real challenges that are presenting right now is, one, a lot of these algorithmic computer programs are what's called scraping from the internet and scraping from any visual images that they can get a hold of, and utilizing works that are created by a great deal of human beings, people, and putting those into this data pile, this folder, this file that these AI programs can use. And someone says, I want a picture of, let's say, Star Wars. I want the Star Wars characters as though they were set in the Harry Potter universe, to use two different kinds of story. One, Harry Potter, the magical kids in the magical world, and they're going to magic school, and Star Wars, this epic space adventure with knights that have laser swords. And how can AI combine those two things? And so what AI does is it takes all the visual imagery, whether it's from the films or book covers or art that people have made based on those things, and it sources all of those very quickly. And it has a set routine of styles of art that they utilize. And this is the same for all these different AI art programs. And then they extrapolate, they take from and collect all of that information, and they make an image based on all of those things, which sounds really cool. The challenge with that is, who benefits? And when creative people are producing materials like the people that made those images, that may have been paid to do so, the companies that own those images and those intellectual properties, these materials that are being produced by these artificial programs are using those things to make new things without any responsibility towards those that produce them. And so the people that produce those things and get employment or some kind of pay from those, they will not have as many opportunities in the future because, well, I can just produce something with my AI program at home based on flowers that look like a Van Gogh painting, that are in a field with the sunset. And you put in those different prompts. They're called prompt is PROPT. Really weird word. You put those prompts in, and it produces this material for you. So if it's doing that for me, why do I need to engage and pay artists? And that's a challenge. Do I think that there are any ethical considerations when it comes to artistic innovation? Fantastic question. Well, in regards to what we're talking about with the AI part, this is where I was going in my next my next thought on this. There is something to be said for individuals that have a facility for looking at the world and reimagining things and envisioning things in a different way than maybe the norm, but in a different way than maybe what has been expressed before. And they have some means, whether it's through writing or music or visual art of some kind. Even photography counts in this regard, because all of those different things is a sort of a social reevaluation of stuff. Whatever the subject matter might be, if it's poverty and the recession and the 1930s, and in the Dust Belt of America, and all the terrible issues presenting families of starvation and having to give up their farms and their livelihoods, and trying to make their way forward in a world with zero means, and in a first world nation, which is a lot meaner than if this was something that was more routinely in a society, because there's this mine or yours aesthetic that comes from people. So art can have, it's not that it has a responsibility to have something to say, but it can be used as a vehicle to express things and to assess things, and to try to work out new ideas, or try to bring attention to ideas that are in play already that may be considered good or bad. There's ethical considerations to that, in the sense that oftentimes through history, art is used as propaganda, and artists will be employed by whatever institution, or all of these television commercials that are on TV, or even on the YouTube here, or any of the streaming services. All of these television commercials are a form of propaganda. Signage is a form of propaganda. You'd have posters saying "enlist in our army." All of these are what are propagating ideas into your mind to be the norm, or to suggest into your mind things that you may want. It's trying to propagate ideas into the world. And so, should one have a definable sense of ethics in that? I think so. But, at the same time, if you're a marketing specialist, if you're somebody who's going into the world trying to get a job in some kind of graphic design, where you're promoting products and you're making commercials, and you're doing an ad campaign on a new cigar or whatever it is, it's a challenging thing to have a clearly defined sense of individual ethics when you're producing materials to promote a product. With art, we can produce materials that subjectively question, the propagandic images in the world around us. Of what's the difference between all these, different. Let me think of an example. What's the difference between all of these cars, when maybe what we should be considering is, what's the most efficient car that has longevity to it, rather than the fanciest, fastest car? Well, you're not going to find commercials about that. You're just not, because they want to sell cars. But an artist can do a series of works that's questioning those things, whether it's through their songs, through their writing, through a series of photographs, through created images, drawn or painted or whatever. Do you have a preference for any particular art movement? No. I wish I had a clearly defined answer for you. No. And the reason that I say that, I did growing up. I absolutely love painters like Caravaggio or Michelangelo. And so growing up with an appreciation of those things as a young person is simply because those kinds of images were in books around my home. I also read a book called the Rupert Annual. And what it is a series of stories about a bear who's like a little boy, an anthropomorphic bear, and all of his anthropomorphic animal friends going on childish adventures of, we're gonna we're going to go and throw sticks at the water, and somebody says, hey, our boat's going through here and you shouldn't be throwing sticks at it. And the kids learn a valuable lesson. The fact that they're bears and pandas and things like that. I see validity in both those things in equal measure. I see, I write and illustrate books. I teach storytelling. And my personal interest is people finding a way and means through expressing themselves that they might not have accessed before. Trying to find some way to tell their stories, to bring forward their thoughts and ideas into the world, or to talk about who they are. So when it comes to liking a particular art style, one of the things that I find really appealing is to be able to look at as many different kinds of images around me, photographic, prehistoric cave paintings, abstract works. I really enjoy paintings of Anselm Kiefer, and which is a very different kind of painting than Caravaggio, and I can write those names down if you want to look up to see the difference. Caravaggio and Anselm Kiefer. I think it's I-E. It might be E-I. Very different kinds of artistic creativity and expression. I like photographs of the past. I like visions of the future. I like the pure, unfettered imagination that one can produce in telling comic book stories, because you don't have a budget with comic book stories. You can have crazy, epic tales that you would have a really hard time to reproduce those, in other means. And at the same time, I love literary works. I enjoy the author Kurt Vonnegut. There's so much out there to enjoy and appreciate. I tend to be the one of those people that bounces around through everything. Now, there are things that I don't find aesthetically pleasing. But that's based on my personal aesthetic, right? That's based on the things that I look at and I go, I don't really enjoy that for whatever reason. I'm not a big proponent of gangster rap, but largely because I don't have that connection to it, and at the same time, I like old country and western music as much as I like, rock and roll and electronica like Radiohead. Like there's so much to experience in the world. Eventually, at some point, the more that you broaden your perspective on things and try to imbibe more things around you, you're going to sit down and listen to, a classical piece composed by Berlioz or something like that. There's so much out there in the world for us to appreciate, and it's not going to be the same as the next person. And you can articulate to somebody else, you can tell them, I like this because, and they could very well have the opposite opinion of it. And that's important too. It's important that we don't all like the same thing. It's important that we don't all feel the same way. It's important that we don't expect everybody to be the same. Because if we do that, we lose ingenuity and we lose new ideas and new expressions and new forms of making things. We have acrylic paint now. Acrylic paint is, in a world where the painting process was so incredibly expensive because you had to get the materials to have the paint made in order to paint with. And nowadays you can go into an urban setting or even have ordered to your house now in the age of online delivery. And you can have a plastic-based, far less expensive, but very similar in its application material to immediately start working with. That's a fantastic equalizer, so that people that have far less means than others have the ability for their voices to be heard. That's the more and more availability that we have for people to express themselves, the better. But as long as there's an appreciation of the active process for all. So I think that if the AI apple cart can get a little bit balanced, and so that there's more appreciation for the people that have made things that these new products are based on, the new paintings and drawings based on previously made images, and the appreciation that people are still making images. I see no problem whatsoever for the continuance of AI, to be able to be accessed by everyone around us. It's just having ethics and maturity about how we do anything, much like everything else in the world, right? Herman says, oh, that was Herman's question. Thank you again, by the way, Herman, for your question. We have 12 minutes more. We have a writing quiz later on. Okay, so I guess in summation, basically, my gist is this. Creative expression is, I think it's intrinsic to the human experience. And the idea that everybody has a voice to say something, whether that's, through their body, whether that's through their writing, whether that's through, whatever means they subjectively evaluate the world around them and express those ideas to others. Everybody in humanity has some of that inside of them. And it's just a matter of figuring out what has value to each of us as individuals. So I hope that helps. That's kind of my overall assessment on things. How do I define art in my life? That's a great last question, David. I retired I managed a bookstore for a long time. My kids are all grown up, and so I spend every day in my studio writing and illustrating stories and helping others to find the means to write and illustrate stories themselves. And I've published a number of books of my own. I've published a number of books of other people. I every month get together in the downtown of the city that I live in, and I teach others to find the means to express themselves. And I run a large group that gets together each month. Excuse me. Pardon me. And so art is very integral to my life. My kids are all adults and have different choices for the things that they find of interest and the things that they find for their work and for their lifestyles. I don't expect that I was going to raise a bunch of artists, and very different lives that our children have as adults. And now, subjectively, my grandkids are also very different in that regard. But art is kind of an integral part of me. And for my wife, it was a real eye-opener of the entirety of the sort of art world and art in people's lives like that, because it was something that didn't necessarily cross her path before. So it's kind of interesting how life works that way. I'm not sure if we have any more questions, or if I've got Manny says, how can art change our lives? And thank you, by the way, for your question, David. I'm sorry. And thank you for your question, Manny. If you see the world around you, I think you enjoy it a little bit more. If you spend all of the time in your life glued in to some kind of device that feeds you all this information and all these perspectives from other people and all of this data and information about how you should see the world and how you should experience it, there's no art in that. That's what we talked about earlier with propaganda. If you look at ideas and you look at images and you listen to music and you listen to the wind going through, the long grass or through the trees, or if you look at how the sun comes over, the mountains, there's so many different ways that we can see beauty in the world, and that we can find ideas and images that change how we understand our lives. And I highly encourage people to look, listen, talk, communicate, read, share with others. And it's only going to enrich your life and those of the people around you. We're all going to grow more that way. I think, yeah. And Linda's saying hi to everybody. Thank you, Linda. You can hear my cat meowing in the background. That's Corbin. He's my studio cat, and he's always dying for attention. I hope that helps everybody. I really appreciate being invited to talk with everyone today. You're always welcome to stop back in at any old time and ask any other questions. Um, and your instructor is a fantastic artist. So you're very fortunate in that regard, because I've seen her work. It's brilliant. So there's a fantastic opportunity to ask some questions and get some really great answers from your teacher as well. Thumbs up. Oh, that. Thank you very much, Linda. Yes, but thank you everybody for coming in today. I hope this helps out. I hope you do well on your test that's coming up. I hope that I didn't barrage you with too much information. This will be left online in the live videos on my channel here, in case you need to go back, and if I've used some words or terms that aren't easily understandable at first, you can look those up. I try to write some words down like that make sense of prompt or aesthetics and things like that. But if there's words that I've challenged everybody with, I apologize. There's a lot of different vernacular or words and language that people use that can change our form of conversation. So, okay, here he is. Corbin wants to say hello. This is how nerdy I am. Okay, well, there we go, everybody. I hope that helped. I hope that that's a benefit. If there's any more questions, feel free to ask, unless you got to get back to your class and do your thing. So, but yeah, we're going to keep this online. We're going to keep things available for people. And thank you, Linda, my moderator, who always helps me out with the stream here. So I appreciate that. We tend to do this each day in the afternoon. It's 1:30, I think, here now, 1:48 here now in the afternoon. So around 1 or 2 each day, we tend to do something. But yeah, by all means, people, please explore artistic engagement and interaction and appreciation and your own self-expression and creativity. It's it's a real opportunity for you to discover things about yourself. Hi, Paul. Welcome aboard. I mean, there's so many things that you will witness and experience that just by the act of doing so might change your ideological belief of how the world works, might change how when you see all these politicians lined up in a row, say, in a propaganda piece, and you realize, well, these people are on the same line, maybe they're not so different. And then your headspace changes, that's just a random thought, but anyhow. Yeah, so yeah, if there's any other questions, please feel free to ask. Otherwise, I think we're going to draw for a couple minutes here. But what do you think, Corbin? Yeah? Yeah, Corbin says yes. Okay, well, thanks very much, everybody. I've got something that I'm going to move into at this point and talk about. So one of the things that I've been doing is that I've put together, let me find the piece of paper. I've got it here in my crazy old stack of nonsense. There's 2 things that are happening. On Tuesday, okay, the new book, and I'll get this out of the way. On Tuesday, the new book is coming out. And we're going to, well, the book's available now on Amazon, but we're going to have a little launch party Tuesday afternoon so that, see you later, Chris. Thank you very much, everybody. Thank you to everybody that took part in today. I appreciate that. Have a good day in class. Okay, so the new thing's coming out on Tuesday for a little launch party, and I'm just gonna stream all afternoon, and we're gonna talk about the book and walk through some of the images and the pages and so forth and the process therein. And then and I'll move the camera in a second. But thanks. Oh, thank you very much, Samuel, and everybody else in the class. And so we'll do some fun stuff. I got some videos that I'll be showing of Cat's Corner with Corbin, and he'll be pontificating on life, and as well as we'll be working on a whole page from start to finish, so that so the idea is that in the book it's the same as the last book. So each page has the finished page, an image of the original art, what the suggestion was from people. So people make suggestions, whether it's a line of dialogue or a couple sentences or 3 words or whatever it is. And I make a 1-page story from that with, visual and textual aspects. So there's the finished page, there's the suggestion that was given, and there's what my thoughts were in the process of it, as well as an example of the original art. And so our previous book of these that came out, 1-page extravaganza volume 1, I was really appreciative of the responses to that. So this is the exact same size as the previous book, with another 70 some odd 1-page stories in there, and all kinds of different approaches and different materials, and it's a lot of fun. I'm really excited to have this together now and to be able to share this. And so I thought we'd have a little launch party, and we'll do the same thing as we did before. Oh, Estefania says, where can we get the book? And Paul says, Amazon. Oh, thank you, Paul. Yeah, it's on. My books are on Amazon. But anybody that has ideas that they want to share, if it's a line of dialogue, if it's a couple of random sentences, here's an example. Films are too expensive to make these days. This one is forest jungle critters run from a volcanic eruption. Then there's other pages that are, this is me telling about the time that I toured a submarine, and the silliness that ensued from that, because I'm 6'6", so I didn't fit inside of that submarine very well. This page here is 3 terms: armadillo, any tool, and laughter. And so I have to take those 3 things, armadillo, any tool, and laughter, and make a story from that. Here's beavers, blinking, and boisterous, and it's the same thing. I have to do a story from that. So it's a lot of fun. And if people are interested in sending me suggestions, you're more than welcome to do so in the comments here. I try to write them down if they come up in the chat. I do my best. I'm pretty good at it, but you can do it in the comments of any of my videos, or on any of the posts on Instagram or Facebook, and all the links are in the video, blah, blah, blah. So, yeah. And Paul says, there it is. Thanks, Linda. Thank you, Linda and Paul. So one of the things that I've been doing, in addition to putting out the new books, is that I've been going through. Now, this is a thumbnail breakdown of the book that I'm finishing off that will be coming out next this year. And it's an ongoing story called Stream of Conceitedness. The reason that title is that it's a stream of consciousness book, so it's wherever the story took me from page to page. But the principal character I drew to look like me, conceited, which is, the conceit. So instead of stream of consciousness, it's stream of conceitedness. Silly title. But so I've got all these pages, and I printed out this overview of this so that I can see all of these laid out together. But you can see that there's a couple in here that I never finished. And so assembling all of these very different approaches to each chapter, it sort of makes it have the diverse way I produce each page in the book, as well as the regular 1-page approach. But at the same time, there's a unified narrative, a unified story through all of these, of this person who escapes from a movie and starts running around in the regular world and causing all kinds of mischief because of it. So, there's a few different panels here that I have to finish, and then this page will be the same size as the last 3 I've put out. I can't remember. I'm sorry if it's 76 or 78 pages. So I'll have to. I clearly should know that. But so that's in the works, and in addition to that, I did a 15-page story at the start of the year, as well as I have a 40-page story that I've got done. So I'm going to collect those along with a number of the two, 4 or 5-page stories that I've been doing throughout the course of the last couple of years while doing the 1-page stories. So I'm going to do an anthology of short stories, that are longer than a single page. So that's in process as well. And so whether or not I get to that by the end of the year, I'll do my best. But in the interim, we've got 1-page extravaganza volume 2, our little release party on Tuesday afternoon, as well as the potential release date, by maybe end of summer for Stream of Conceitedness. So so it's a busy time. That in addition to projects, other projects that are ongoing for for clients. So Paul says it's fun to see all the thumbnails. So if you don't mind, I'm going to grab something. So here is, I have been doing thumbnails based on all the current projects that I have in play right now. I've been making sure to collect, in order to collect my thoughts and to help me prepare myself for executing these projects, I have been printing out thumbnails of these various different things. Like this in the frame right now. This is a Village Haunted, and a Village Haunted is this ghost story set in a small town. And so by printing all these out together, it allows me to look at it and go, is there a coherent visual approach to it? And, is there anything that sticks out as to be too different than everything else? I'm pretty happy with that. It also lets me do things like this, where I print out, and this is, what do we got? 5, 10, 15, 20, 25 to a sheet of 8.5 by 11 paper. But this collects a number of the short stories that I've done online from suggestions by other people. Instead of stopping at a single page, I've done numerous pages for each of these in different styles and different mediums. And so, and I've got, I have some more to add to this as yet, but I've got 2 pages of these. So that's 50 pages there in and of itself. So, am I going to do an anthology that has, this many pages together? Or am I going to include the 15-page sci-fi story that I did at the start of this year and have that as, and add a couple more pages to that, and there's another 76, 78-page book? Or will I, edit some of these and make some decisions about which ones I find the most, the best ones, and include those and have this larger piece in the same book? So by having all of these things printing out the pages that I've done these various different stories on, it helps me to have an overview to be able to assess what can I do with these things and how can these things interact with one another. So it's just a planning thing, but it is kind of fun, as Paul said, to be able to see all those. Paul says it gives you a good bird's eye view of the pages. Yeah, it really does. And there's great benefit to be had in that. One of the things that I'm presented by to speak to this project, the Stream of Conceitedness project, I started this, I think it was I started thinking it up in about 2020, but I started creating these pages in 2022, 2023. And I've gone back and I've refined a number of them over time, but the way that I drew, the way that I told stories, the way that the panels interact with one another, at that time when I made these, as opposed to today where I'm doing what I'm doing the one-page stories or whenever I'm doing other larger projects, I work very differently visually. I work the way that I lay pages out, and I have a different sense of rhythm of the panels, or what's the importance of this panel over that panel, or this idea over that idea. And so a lot of those things may have altered from the time I started doing these pages together. So, like with these pages here, the reason that I never did anything with those is because I don't like how I drew them. And it left me feeling a little bit uninspired to finish them. So, with that, one of the things that I started doing was to sit down and start evaluating how I drew some of these things out, and how would I draw these characters today and the way that they move through space and the differences therein. So I can't show you the next couple pages because I got writing all over them. But so when you start looking at the way that you drew before, which is a little more rigid and there's a bit of more constraint in the figure and how it moves, and then you look at the way that you draw form now, where you have a different sense of dimension and a different sense of a character's weight in space. And it, if I drew this way before and I'm drawing this way now, I have to figure out a way in order to blend those different aspects together within the same story. So what were originally just little title cards, which is what you see with this black square with a circle on it, what were originally different title cards, one of the ways that I can subjectively unify all of these different elements and unify the sort of changes in visual style is that I can take these title card locations and have some kind of visual element drawn on each of these, whether by an extension of the story or some sort of visual creative way to draw each title and to draw the characters for the next upcoming piece. And so it gives me some food for thought. Paul says, "You may not like your style back then. It is still really good. We will enjoy it." Oh, and Paul does the same thing with the bird's eye view. Fantastic. But thank you very much, Paul. That's very nice of you. I appreciate that. It's not so much that I dislike it. It's just that there's been a change. And because I'm not throwing the baby out with the bathwater here, I'm taking these different pages and I'm still doing them. I'm still following through on it. But in the course of trying to finish this project off so it doesn't sit in the back of my skull, I just want to figure out some kind of way to just bring it all together, to just tie it all together. And that and the thing about these black cards, the chapter dividers, I don't like them. They're black, dull, stale, blah. We can do better than that. So I can utilize these little breaks, these little moments. I mean, even if it's something as simplistic as here, I'll use the back of this. Whoops, I'm so sorry. Bouncy camera. Even if I was to take this section here, is that in frame? Move that down. Here, I'll use a darker pencil. How's that? Even if I was to take, so the existing panel is this circular, the symbol of the book, the concept. It's actually the concept of circular certainty in spirituality. But so instead of doing this, which rather simplistic thing, I can keep putting that element someplace or and having the title someplace, but like there's a story that has a teddy bear, so why not just take this piece of artwork here and draw a teddy bear just sitting on the ground, and so if I've got that in place as this sort of title card, and this element is gone in the middle. And so if this is the title card instead now, and and I can draw, say, a room that the teddy bear exists within, and if I have this as the title card instead, then because of the recurring title cards that depict those characters, with a little bit of the sensibilities that I have now for drawing, then by the regular routine of those, that it unconsciously ties all the pages together. Unconsciously, for the viewer, ties together all those possibly discordant elements. So that's what I'm considering doing. Or in instances where I think maybe this piece of story should go farther than this. Maybe there's a couple of pages here. Instead of, I've got an X here because I'm unhappy really with how I did that page. It just looks like the thing that I'm often talking about with 1990s comics. It's a big picture with a whole bunch of text on it, and there's no value for the reader to have to work their way visually through that page just to take in all that text. And it's not about what we want to say, and what we, it's not about how we want it to be cool the way we think it's cool. It's about how it serves the reader when we're making stories. And so this, while it might serve the reader textually, this flat image here does not serve the reader visually enough. So this is a page that this is where these scribbles come into place, is that I'm trying to think of a new means of illustrating this action of him running through the streets with abandon and sort of escaping. This is the character that has, right here, that is broken out of the film that was playing in a movie theater. And as the people are leaving the theater, he jumps out of the doorway of the cinema and goes from being the blue and white character that he was in the film to the same kind of colorization that everybody in the world around him has. And then makes his way running off into the world before he starts going on his adventures. So I want to reevaluate that single page, and because I can take that and take this whole, where is this guy going? Why is he running like this? What is the stuff he's carrying? And I can ask all those questions for the reader. I can, which is what these textual elements here do. But by having, a shot that maybe focuses on the bags he's running around with, or it's autumn. Who's wearing shorts like that in this kind of a climate? The silly little bits that when you tie all that together into your narrative itself, it sort of helps to inform the reader that, oh, we're going to get to those things. There's going to be reasoning behind it. There's going to be a payoff. Can I zoom in on the X page? Oh, okay, sure. Let's see if I can do it. We're working on this. Yeah, there we go. So it's a little better. So you can see that it's kind of a flat image of him running through the street there. And so this is where he is running. I can't zoom any more than that. Chris says, I'll watch the replay. My students are having their writing quiz right now. We had some problems with the classroom speakers. The volume didn't work. So they were using earplugs, but I had none. Oh, I'm sorry, Chris. I'm sorry that happened. Like I said, when I'm done, when I conclude this stream, it should be available for anybody to access in my live videos. It'll be the most current one. So if that helps for anybody to go back and to hear whatever. I got my new microphone system going now so people can hear me. I got my new pretty camera so people can see me. And, and then I've also got my old phone. I got a new phone, and so I took the phone that I had and I turned it into a camera so that it gives me a much clearer picture, and I'm able to zoom whenever I want to now. So Paul says, oh, I see what you mean. Yeah, the challenge of a lot of text with a flat image is you're demanding of the reader to forego the visual aesthetic part of it, to forego the visual story that's being given, and to only really have payoff for the textual part of it. And that's not great. We don't want to do that. The whole point of this medium, the sequential application of storytelling, is it's a cohesion. It's a joining of text and visual. It's a joining of those two elements. And if one is more important than the other, unfortunately, we're not doing our job right. So I need to step up this game right there. And so the idea is to focus on the little different elements that are within these textual balloons, and to interpret this page. And I'll do it right here for us. To, instead of interpreting this page as a flat, am I in camera? Have I moved over too far? I'm so sorry. Okay, so here we go. So here's our first interpretation. If the initial one is guy running, okay. Is this pencil dead? Is that what's going on? No. If it's, we got guy running through the street, okay, and he's got his bags with him, and there's his backpack, and so if he's moving through a city environment and you've got all the buildings and the storefronts here, right, and then we've got our little angled view of the next block, and in front of that is superimposed another building in our foreground, which, by the way, there's not enough separation of this building from this background. That's flat. So all this text that we're writing through here, we have one image in order to give us visual stimulus through that. So if I take from this, okay, and I'll use a different color with my fancy set of colored mechanical pencils that I have now. So if I look at this in a different way, so let's say in the same space, I'm going to pull back a little bit for this. There we go. Pull back it a little bit more. There you are. So in the same confines of the page, as I've got the frame reference to use, I'll put a number of different images. So here's Buddy with his, and he's running with his bags, okay, moving in the foreground. He's got his bags flopping around. And then our next panel can focus on these bags he's carrying, with his hand over top, and then here's this bag as it's wagging around on that side, this hand holding onto that, so then I can use that space for the textual part. It says, what's with the bags, right? Yeah, so, just more and more of these different elements, and we've got them running through the street. We can have a car come to an immediate halt because he hasn't watched when he's crossing the road, Chris says, congratulations on the mic and camera. My schedule right now is Monday to Friday from 2 to 5 EST. Well, then we're going to have to do something on a weekday morning, Chris, because I miss having you on. You as well, Paul. We gotta get some people come in and join me on the stream again. So Monday to Friday, 2 to 5. So Monday, Friday mornings, Chris. I'm writing it down because I've hit that age. I got to write things down. Great. But thanks very much for the congratulations. An abrupt delay with a bunch of extra time spent on one page with little visual payoff risks pulling the reader out of the story. Exactly. Exactly. And Saturdays from 10 to 3. Sats from 10 to 3. So it'd have to be a Saturday morning instead. Okay, perfect. I got that written down, Chris. Thank you. We'll chat and get you to come in and join me on the stream here. And Paul, you're welcome to as well. So if I can even take some of these elements that I've already laid out on the previous page and reincorporate those. So if I've got, I'm going to use this fountain pen. So if I've got this drawn in now, this panel of him running with his bags, as I've shown over there. And then we've got another image of him holding the bags as he's running and asking the question of what's the deal with those. And then this next panel, I can take this aspect of the page, this nice little angled side street, and I can draw a character. I can reutilize that, but I can draw a character sort of running into it. We can draw in the distance here a little car as it's moving that way in space. And so then as I use this drawing of him running across the street, as I have in the original, well, now I can put that into place, but I can have that, let's say the first panel has that car have to stop. As he runs in front of it, we get the whole squeak, right? And then as he keeps going through that space, then you can have the guy put his arm outside of his window, hey, what are you doing? Watch where you're going, and then we've got a little more engagement for our reader, while we have all these narrative elements coming out in the text. So it's something as simple as that. Reasons why I can't join streams. Oh, I miss joint streams. Same here. I really do. It's been a busy year, and I got away from them, and I miss them. I miss all you guys. This is great food for me, Christopher. I'm writing my 4th book currently. Paul Pate, that's good news, Paul Pate. That's very good news. Yes, excellent. I'm happy to hear that. I've been trying to keep up and follow what everybody's doing, and stay on board with what's happening. But between trying to get XYZ done at the end of the year, and I've been sick, so it's trying to get back on track with my health. I haven't been commenting or everything, but I am trying to see what everybody's doing, and I'm really happy to hear you're working on your 4th book. I have, in the case of Mr. Paul Pate, in his 3 books that he's put out, I have lent those now to 3 separate people, and that have all greatly enjoyed them. And to my understanding, they've all been making book orders. So I hope they have, because they're very, very good books. And they're on the opposite side of my studio. And so I'll have to show those. I can show those on Tuesday, show what other people I know are doing. But that's great news, Paul. Yeah, hey, let me know if there's ever anything I can do to help. So yeah, so it's busy days, but I'm really looking forward to Tuesday. I'm really looking forward to our little launch day for the new one page. Just so that it's just, you gotta, sometimes you have, here's the thing about finishing a project. And it's not to say it's not per se that I finished this book, because in the last 2 years, I mean, we broke 700 pages for how many one-page stories, or how many pages we've done online here. And so it's not that this collects all of that, but having it put together and released is fun. And it's an important thing that when we come to a plateau, when we come to a point where we've finished something, where we've executed some sort of self-expression and produced it out and shared it with the world, that we appreciate that, we enjoy that for a moment. It's there's a great value in that. It's a great value. The 3 books that you've done of Detective Perez, Paul, and that's to be greatly celebrated. And part of the reason that I'm putting out the one-page extravaganza books is because it's the second half of the process. It's people suggest an idea, I do a one-page story from it, and so this is the culmination of that, by then collecting those as we go along and producing them as collected in these books. Like this, the Cydonia complex, the face on Mars. This is from one of those. We had a stream where everybody was just firing off conspiracy theories at me, and I was doing my best to write them all in the suggestion book. And so the Cydonia complex, the face on Mars, is one of those. I'm not sure who that came from. I think it might have been Gary Hodges. But so that's the sort of zenith point. That's the outcome of that involvement. Somebody had, this is another one of those. This is, I don't believe in lizard people, you know. And so, my big face out of the way. I fixed up my key so I can change my cameras and everything with the touch of a single button now. I have more time on Monday morning. Let's chat about that later on. Excellent. That sounds excellent, Chris. I would look forward to that. Paul says I'll try to stay high on Tuesday to say congrats. Oh, thanks, buddy. You gotta stay healthy. Oh, that's for sure. I have a reduced immune system because of my combination of nervous system disorder and, diabetes. So, I get wiped out by grandkids visiting. They got a cold. Grandpa's got a cold. Holidays are stressful. This one is a kid throws a party, but it's from the dog's point of view. So all of these different approaches visually to doing the pages, and all of these different ideas, it's really fun to sit down and to reassess those. A bird that barks like a dog. This is one panel movie recaps. This one was a lot of fun because this is people naming off movies to me and seeing how I can describe those as briefly as I can. The Man Who Fell to Earth, 1976. If you like David Bowie when he's weird, this film will suit you fine. Friday the 13th, 1980. Kids Camp Misadventures that killed the summer camp industry. That's my assessment of that movie. The Shining, 1980. Man gets lost in a maze after his kid rides a bike all over the hotel's carpet. Yeah, so that's my silly versions of those stories. You gotta, like I say, you gotta have fun, right? I want to do more of these, to be honest. Midnight Run. If you haven't seen Midnight Run, this is a wonderful film. An annoyed FBI agent has to replace his sunglasses repeatedly. Not downplay on the two main actors and all of their part in this whole film, but the supporting character who is constantly getting his sunglasses stolen is very fun to me. Paul says, I miss Chris K's accent. Oh, yes, of course, so do I. Who doesn't? Well, they're students. They get to hear it all the time. It's fun to do different things and to approach these books in different ways with different materials. This is a fun one. I call it the incremental hypothesis. The suggestion is someone trying to get increasingly large objects on the bus. And so it starts with a feather, bowling ball, a tuba with a broken handle on its case, a grand piano, an upright piano, an ICBM missile. So everything by degrees, So yeah, it's fun also to look back on when you finish a project. It's fun to look back on said project, and because you might. This is the challenge of creativity. As we create things and as we produce X amount of them, we forget about them. It's not that not to diminish them, not to take away the any kind of prescribed value to that. It's just that, oh yeah, I forgot about doing this story about penguins going to outer space. It's kind of fun that when you can look back on something and go, I remember doing this. It's the same as when someone says, do you remember those cupcakes that you made that time? And you're like, oh yeah, right. I enjoyed making those cupcakes. And the other person goes, those were the greatest cupcakes I ever had. And you're like, I should make more cupcakes. So, it's similar to that. Paul says, the students listen in on Saturdays almost for 4 hours to Chris's accent. There you go. That's a long run, but fantastic that you're doing that and helping all these students out with their growth. Paul says, I got to run, Toodles. Hey, thanks for coming in, Paul. We had lots of activities and videos to watch. Well, there you go. There you go. Of course, you gotta pad that time. Get weirdos from Canada to come and talk to your kids. Paul, thanks for stopping by. It's great to see you, buddy. And I think I better get going. I've got we went grocery shopping, and there's a snowstorm going on still outside, and so I had to get out of the car and come in, and I did not help with the putting away of things because you know I had to get down here in time. So I'm going to go upstairs and see what I can do to if there's any help that I can offer for that. But I think I'm going to wrap up. Thank you very much, everybody that came and joined in and spent some time together. I've got a few of these pages that I'm finishing off, and all this stuff we're putting together for Tuesday fun time. Hey fella, hey, look who that is. It's Mr. Jim Lujan, ladies and gentlemen. There's Chris saying goodbye to Paul. It's good to see you as well, Jim. There's been a lot of fun things going on, and a lot of fun things in development right now, and finishing off these projects for release, and yeah, these are good times, and I hope everybody else is having good creative times right now. And sometimes it's that slow and steady race towards the objective that really really puts things together for us. It's always challenging. Don't ever let anybody tell you it's otherwise. It's always challenging to maintain your level of self-motivation. To say that we don't ever have breaks from those, stops in that momentum is, discourtesy to ourselves, because it's important that we recognize that not everything happens in a day. It's important that we recognize that we will get these objectives done. We will get these projects done, in their own due time. And sometimes things get in the way, and we get distracted. And what is that? A fly? And but we still get back to them and produce those. So, yeah, I'm happy to be able to put out the new book and to be able to be finishing off another one for the end of the year. So that's kind of, yeah, it's good, feel good year to start with. So, all right, thank you very much, everybody that came out. Thank you very much, Chris and your class, for the opportunity to chat with everybody. Thank you very much, Linda, the moderator with the mostest, and everybody that joined in and took part in our chat. Yeah, I'm going to put this video in the live video so that people that might want to watch it or from the beginning and in our art chat, or might also have to watch it because there may be some obligation. Jim says, wishing you great health, Christopher. Thank you very much, sir. I appreciate that. Yeah, so we'll be back on Monday afternoon at 2. Oh, wait, hold on. No, I'm sorry, I can't give you a time on Monday because I'm going to have the grandkids with me, and we have something in mind that we'll be doing on Monday. And maybe we'll film ourselves doing it because it's very crafty. Very crafty. But otherwise, Tuesday at noon, I will be here on the stream, and I'll be spending the entire afternoon here. So please feel free to drop in and say hey, hang out. Yeah, I hope to see everybody then. In the meantime, have a great weekend, everybody. I'm off to put away groceries and shovel snow. Bye for now. Thanks for coming out. There we are. Oh, what did that just do? And boink.